Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. This is Pari. I'm a nurse practitioner, and I'm here today with Miss Wendy Leung. She is a IBS elimination specialist and a licensed acupuncture specialist. Welcome, Wendy. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me.
So I just want to talk to her today about the ways that she comes across IBS and how she handles IBS using alternative therapy to help us with our daily lives and daily holistic well-being. So let's start off, Wendy, with your background, how long you've been doing this and educating people on IBS.
Yeah, so I have been an IBS elimination specialist, been coaching people with irritable bowel syndrome for about 3 years now. Prior to that, I was working in my private practice as a licensed acupuncturist. And in my acupuncture practice was where I discovered that there were a lot of people with IBS still around. And, I'll share my story later, but I had not had IBS for a long time. And so that was a little bit shocking to me. And I did a little bit more research and realized that there were more and more people that still had these issues, and I wanted to be able to help them. And so that's why I started.
So what got you triggered into getting into the online platform and talking about, alternative ways to treat IBS?
Yeah, I mean, I think what happened was that I did start to see a lot of people with digestive diseases, with IBD, with IBS, in my acupuncture practice, and that made me realize that there still wasn't a lot of help out there for people, right? Like people's stories that they would share with me would be, I went for all the diagnostic tests. I got the colonoscopy, the endoscopy, like they tested me for this and that. And my food allergies are coming back clean. I'm not really sure what's going on, but then they've told me that I have this IBS and I don't know what to do. And the general consensus is that, that IBS is a chronic condition. It needs to be managed forever. And when I realized that that was still the dialogue that was happening with allopathic medicine, with Western medicine, then I knew that I had to come online because there's so many people. It's 10 to 15% of the world population struggles with IBS, right? And that's only the people who are diagnosed. And if I were to stay and only help people within the confines of my acupuncture practice, then I would be helping people locally, one at a time. I wouldn't be able to spread that message that you don't need to live with IBS, that it's not a chronic condition, and, that I've been IBS free personally for over 15 years. And so if I could do that, that definitely other people can do that as well.
Yeah, and thank you for doing that. I'm sure you're benefiting many, many people by doing this and spreading this knowledge. Thank you. So I want to see, how do you get information on how do you approach managing IBS and from Western point of view, and how's your approach different from other alternative practices and the Western approach?
Yeah, so my background is in traditional Chinese medicine. So that's where, as a licensed acupuncturist, that is my training. So with all of that expertise comes Eastern nutritional therapy, which is a little bit different from Ayurvedic, but they share a lot of similar sort of properties. But it's quite different from Western nutrition. So whereas Western nutrition might recommend the elimination diet, might recommend low FODMAP. The elimination diet I find to be quite harsh. And while it is effective for some people, what often happens is that because your gut is already weak in the state of IBS, that when you go and shock your system by eliminating so many things at one time, that when you do the reintroduction, you find that actually your stomach stops tolerating some of those things that even were okay for you originally. And so that brings in a lot of confusion. And essentially the theory behind holistic medicine, the theory behind Eastern medicine, is that you work with your body as opposed to against it. And so the way that I work with my clients is that I help them really come to understand what's going on with their body, understand why their body is reacting in that way, and then working with their body to actually achieve their end goal. So listening to their body and working with their natural diet, their current diet, and making some smaller shifts so that we can gracefully sort of coax your body into healing.
Gotcha. So in what ways do people benefit from your lifestyle and managing IBS recommendations? What have you seen so far with the various clients you have come across?
Yeah, I mean, the clients that I work with get better, right? And getting better for me is not managing your IBS, right? We talk a lot about symptom management. We talk a lot about, how to avoid eating the foods that trigger. But rather than simply avoiding the foods that trigger, what if we refocus on actually having a complete healthy lifestyle and completely healing your gut? So you're not just avoiding certain triggers that that would flare up your symptoms like bloating or diarrhea or constipation. We are restoring your gut to a point where actually you could eat those foods and no longer trigger your issues. So, for example, I used to not be able to eat broccoli, cauliflower, asparagus, like a bunch of those types of vegetables, which I used to love, right? Because because I enjoy vegetables. I grew up eating vegetables, and all of a sudden, like, I couldn't eat them anymore. And I didn't understand. And when I figured out I had to remove them, then I did. But I eat them all the time now. Right. And it doesn't do anything to me. So it's not just about working your way around and figuring out what you can and can't eat. It's about really restoring your gut and getting it to a place where it's no longer a weak digestive system, where it can actually tolerate the things that you're not actually allergic to. So there's the anaphylactic, allergies. So for people who are not knowing what that means, it's like when your throat closes, right? When you get that inflammatory response, that's a true food allergy. When we're talking about food sensitivities, that's a different thing. And from a TCM perspective, from a Chinese medicine perspective, it really just means that your digestive system is weak. So it's not able to process certain foods. So when I'm working with my clients, we bring them to a state where their digestive system is strong, right? It's back to normal. And they're able to move on. So ultimately, the goal, whenever I'm working with people, is full IBS recovery, which means you no longer have the symptoms, you no longer have flares, you can go on with your life, you don't worry about, the anxiety of, what happens when it comes up, and you also understand why that's the case, and you feel confident in it too, because a lot of times with IBS, you can feel worried. There's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress, especially just in the amount of time that you can spend thinking about your IBS even. And you alleviate that from people's lives just opens up so much space. So that's what I do with people.
Yeah, it helps with a lot of anxiety, because whenever people are traveling or going anywhere and having to constantly think, can I eat this? Can I not eat this? I come across patients that, as I'm working as a nurse practitioner, they're like, I think I'm allergic to this. And then I really have to teach them, be like, it could be your IBS or it could be the GI intolerance that you have. It's not true allergy. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's a whole huge misconception with that. People thinking, oh, I'm allergic to something, when they truly are just not tolerating it. So thank you for that. So my whole next thing is, what are some common, like you mentioned some stress and anxiety, but when you're handling clients or dealing with talking to people, are there certain clients or certain people that, such as like elderly or pregnant or the very young, the very old, or some people have multiple comorbidities going on, or there are multiple medication. Are there any contraindications using the traditional Chinese method and your ways of managing irritable bowel syndrome?
Yeah. So the amazing thing is that there's not. The reason being, and I did mention that I have a traditional Chinese medicine background, but I do need to be clear that I don't work with herbs. So I'm not an herbologist, and I don't prescribe supplements, and I don't recommend anything that is an ingested sort of thing other than food therapy, because the way that I work with clients is highly, highly natural and completely, supplement free. So in that sense, there are no contraindications, because really what we're doing is we're just redeveloping your trust with your body. We're redeveloping the intuitive nature dynamic that you're supposed to have with your body, where you listen, where you understand, where you know how to read it. And then we're working with nutritional, like food, literally food therapy. From a Chinese medicine perspective, certain foods have different properties. And depending on your constitution in your body, some foods are tolerable for you, some foods are helpful for you in terms of a healing property, and other foods are detrimental as well. And so we work within those confines. So in that case, there's certain nuances, everybody's a little bit different. In terms of IBS, everyone's always a little different anyway, because your symptoms can change. You could have diarrhea, you could have constipation, and you could have bloating, or you could have, a combination of any of those things. So every body is different. So we work with your specific body, and we tailor, you understand your own specific body and how that works. But in terms of contraindications, there aren't any, not within the methods that I use, because they are holistic and because they are, supplement and herb free.
Nice. That makes sense. There's nothing being added to the body. You're helping the person
Exactly.
kind of figure out their own, what works for their body, make their own gut system and overall stronger to combat, not
Yeah.
combat, but help heal with the irritable bowel syndrome.
Mhm.
So I want to ask, how can people, incorporate this in their daily life? So where can they go to find out more information about you or about irritable bowel syndrome and ways to help themselves holistically?
Yeah, well, I have a YouTube channel, and that is set up specifically to help inspire people to shift that thought process from symptom management into full IBS recovery, right? That is my ultimate goal. That is the reason why I started the YouTube channel in the first place, because I am an introvert. You may not know this, but, and it may not seem like it, but it took a lot of courage for me, a lot of just like mindset shifts to be able to say, okay, yeah, I'm actually going to get in front of the camera and be visible for people, to specifically to spread that message, because I think it's so, so important. So my YouTube channel is Wendy Leung Coaching, and my website is the same, Wendy Leung Coaching, and there you can find more information about me, about my IBS story, about how I've healed myself, about how I heal my clients, and what I do for them as well. And I would say that those are probably your two best resources.
Okay, thank you very much for being with us today, Wendy, and sharing this information with all the viewers. I really appreciate that, because I'm all about like, how can we heal ourselves holistically, and what can we do with our lifestyle and diet and daily activity to heal ourselves with common ailments. So thank you for sharing this info.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And everybody, please don't forget to subscribe, share, and like. And please share this with anyone that you know that is dealing with irritable bowel syndrome and suffering with irritable bowel syndrome and would benefit from finding out this information and getting in even contact with Miss Wendy over here to help heal themselves holistically. So please do share with your family members and friends that would benefit from this. And thank you, everyone. Please stay safe and stay healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you.